TCP header was it looks like this. It has a source port, destination port, something called a sequence number, and there is acknowledgement number. Okay, so it is again 32-bit long. If you see, it is 16 and 16 bits, so it is 32 bits long. And when you see the source port, it is of 16 bits, as well as if you see the destination port, it is again of 16 bits. Okay, the sequence number that are available here are 32 bits, and the acknowledgement number that is again available here is again of 32 bits. Okay, so I'll explain everything in quite a bit of detail one by one. Okay, so header length is given to you 4 bits, 6 bits, and these are flags. Okay, so every flag is one bit here. Okay, so urgent flag, acknowledgement flag, push flag, reset flag, sync flag, and finish flag. Okay, so the remaining part is your 16-bit of advertisement window or your window size, and checksum is again of 16-bit, and then there is an urgent pointer that is again now 16-bit. Okay, so again you have an option field here. The option field is again from 0 to 40 bytes. So it is again optional. Okay, so this field can be used. I'll tell you about the options here. But data part is not optional. Okay, so when you're sending a TCP header, you may be sending data. Okay, why it is optional? Sorry. So data will be embedded. Yeah, data part will be there. Okay, so it should not be optional, because when you're sending some data there, then only you put a TCP header to it. Okay, so if you're not sending any data, why you put a TCP header to it? Okay, so now the main question is that okay, so the main question is that the minimum header length that is available to it, and what will be the maximum header length that will be available to it. Okay, so minimum and maximum. Okay, so you already know that every what you say call row is of 32 bits. I can say it is of 4 bytes. Okay, so 4 bytes, this one 4 bytes, 4 bytes, 4 bytes, 4 bytes here, and this is of 40 bytes. Okay, so I do not consider data to be a part of the header. So data will the availability of data depends upon the user what it wants to send. So that length is not calculated. I'm only concerned about the header part. Okay, so now header, this particular option part is optional. Again, you know it. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it is again 20 bytes of header. Minimum header length will be of 20 bytes, and maximum header length will be of 20 plus, if you include the option part here, option part is of 40 bytes, so it can become 20 plus 40 will be 60. So I can say 20 plus 40 will be 60 bytes. Okay, so the maximum header length of TCP header. So everything I'm concerned with here with the TCP header. We have seen IP header, and again IP header I have discussed in quite a bit of detail. In the similar way, I will also discuss in quite a bit of detail the TCP header part also, because they are both very important uh, coming to the topics of CN. So these are the most important ones. Okay, so the first is very simple, is the source port and the destination port. Okay, so both are of 16 bits here. So what actually it means, so source port is equal to destination port, that is 16 bits here. Okay, so if it is 16 bits, so total port numbers, how many total port numbers will be there? So you say it is 2 raised to power 16. Okay, so the range will be from 0 to 2 raised to power 16 minus 1. I think it is, again the range is very reasonable, that is 0 to 65535. Okay, so now what it means is that why we use port number. Now I am done with network layer now. I am standing at TCP. It means I'm talking about everything in transport layer. Okay. So first thing, you understand TCP exists in transport layer. Now I have discussed in complete detail about the physical layer, the topics like uh, Manchester encoding, everything, routers, gateways, everything is a part of physical layer. Then I come to the data link layer, the framing, the character stuffing, bit stuffing. We go on to that flow control, access control, error control. All of the things are there in your data link layer. Now we have discussed network layer, the routing, the distance vector routing, the link state routing, and other IP protocol, ARP protocol, and the advanced version that exists in the application layer, that is your BOOTP protocol or your DHCP protocol. Okay, so all of the things that have been discussed in network layer. Now we are standing at the transport layer. Okay, so these there are these four layers that are very main as of OSI. Okay, of OSI model, these are the four layers where the most functionality will happen. Okay, so again, the remaining session or presentation or application layer is just a little bit of things. There are some protocols that exist there, but it is not much there. The software concept exists in three layers, these three layers. So that is why if you are if you're from computer science background, the interview question will be mostly asked from these three layers. But if you are from electronics background, the question will be asked from the physical layer and type of encoding that you have used, and something like Manchester encoding, spread spectrum, these things. Okay, so if you are from electronics background, they their computer network subject is also there. So electronic, they basically concentrate on the electronic component that exists in layers, but from the perspective of computer science, we just deal with a lot of software things. So that is why I have discussed in a lot of detail regarding the DLL, network layer and transport layer. So now we are standing at transport layer. Again, I will again use the same approach. I will discuss in a lot of detail. Okay, so what is transport layer? You already know. In transport layer, what happens is that you are at PC, and in PC you are using a specific port here. Okay, so port means your browser is running on a specific port. So you can say process number. Okay, so something called a process number. So when you open a process number here, what will happen here? So the communication between transport layer will be from process to process. Okay, so it does not concerned with the IP addresses. So IP addresses is the responsibility of the network layer. So I am only concerned with the port number. So port number means that in a specific computer on which port it is running. Okay, so just wait a second. Okay, so now port numbers are just simply that you want to communicate with process to process. We always use port number. Okay, so if you are a host in a specific host, there may be multiple ports that can exist. So every application is running on a specific process number that is referred to as your port number. Okay, so just wait a second. Okay, so port numbers are they are generally used for multiplexing and demultiplexing. Okay, so what is multiplexing and demultiplexing? You already may have known about it. So what do this mux do? Okay, so it takes the incoming messages and give it exactly to one of the processes. So if there are many processes that are coming there, so you suppose it is meant for a specific message, specific what you say port here, so it will be given to that only port. Okay, another thing is that it can also spread the message. Okay, so demux is that when you collect the message from all the processes and send it to one channel. Sorry, I said it that wrong. So when you take a message and multiplexing. Okay, multiplexing means that you take the incoming message, taking an incoming message and giving it to exactly one of the processes. So there may be more than processes, so you can transfer this message to more than one here, or you can transfer it to the specific port. So demultiplexing will be that there are a lot of incoming message and processes from all the processes. So this is one port, from this is one port, and you combine this and send it to one channel here, only one channel. Okay, so here you can take the message from one port and you can transfer it to different channels. And different channels means there may be the port lies on different channels, that can also happen. Okay, so now in demultiplexing you can take different processes ports and you can combine it one channel. Okay, so TCP is, again I can refer to it, TCP is a end-to-end protocol. Keep that in mind. Why it is end-to-end? Because you're going to the last stop here. Okay, end to end, last stop is your process where you are working. Okay, so if you're working on a browser, then everything will be delivered on your browser. Okay, so another thing is that TCP can do multiplexing or demultiplexing. Okay, so this particular thing you already know. I think it is discussed in the first module. I think that was your self-study topic. Okay, so you already know that from 0 to 65535 the range exists. Okay, so what it means is that there are many popular port numbers that are already there. Okay, so popular port numbers are like telephone numbers that you can easily remember, like the telephone number of your police, the telephone number of the hospital. So in this way, this is given some popular port numbers like HTTP, it is 80, and FTP, the popular port number is 21. Telnet, that there is there, that is 23 here. SMTP, that exists, that there is 25 there. Okay, so these are already well defined port. Okay, so from 0 to 1023, the port numbers are well known. Okay, so if you want to open your own port, or if you want to design your own port, you cannot use any of the numbers that they are already defined there. You cannot use it. Okay, another one is that from 1024 to 49151, these ports are already reserved by IANA. So it is Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. Okay, another thing is that from 49152 to 65535, now you can use this is used for general public. Okay, so you can use any port number from here. Okay, so mostly we do not prefer to use these kinds of port number, but still practically you can use it, there is no problem. But sometimes your application that is running on your computer can clash with other port numbers, so it can happen. Okay, so that is why we generally avoid these range, but we can take any number from this range, there is no problem with that. Okay, so you can see, if you just go on CMD and press netstat, you will be able to see the open ports right now. What are open ports that are available on your PC? Okay, so now you will be thinking, this is one of the many questions that people ask, that uh, how port numbers are used to uniquely identify a connection. Okay, so I'll show you how port numbers are used to uniquely identify a connection. This is a very well-known question that is asked by many. Okay, identify connection. Okay, so suppose if I take a simple scenario that I am in this machine. So this is a machine. In this machine, there is specific port. Suppose the port is X. I don't know. I don't want to give any number. So X will be from 1952 to 65535. Okay. So this particular port is communicating with the Google server, and Google server, suppose it is using HTTP. Okay, so that the port number is 80, we already know. So this is the Google server. Okay, so what you do, you write the source port and you write the destination port, and you transfer the packet from the source to the destination. So that much we already know this. Okay. So now what will be the problem here? Okay, so what can be the problem here? You're seeing here, you have to choose a number from 1491522 Okay, so it can also happen that on another PC there is one process that is running and I have to assign a number. Okay, so again I have, instead of using any number, I am again using the same number, that is X, that is used in this particular PC. So see, this is PC1 and this is PC2. It can happen because they are different computer, absolutely. So they can use the same port number, because the available range is also available to this PC as well, that is 1419152265535. So that range is also available to this PC. So suppose coincidentally it also takes the same port number as taken by this PC P1. Okay, so when it sends, what it will send, it will again send the same thing, source port and the destination port. Okay, so how can you identify? So they are very similar here. Okay, so how can this particular Google server identify that this particular packet are coming from different PCs that is available in different networks? So that is the main problem. Okay, so you may be thinking, I can, if I use PC, if I use IP address, then this particular problem can be avoided. But if you use this particular IP address, the problem will still persist. Okay, so I'll show you the scenario in which uh, particular time this particular problem can exist. Suppose this is again a computer. In this computer, there are two ports that are opened. Okay, this is A port, and suppose this is another B port. Suppose it is there. Okay, so now you see this is a total computer here. So I'm just calling this as P. Okay, PC P. I'm just calling it as P. Okay, so now when these two particular computers communicate with the server of Google, you say this is the server of Google. Now you already know what is the destination port number, and I already know that what is the destination IP address, because it is IP address is www.google.com. It's the IP address. So what you do, you take a packet from IA and you will take a packet from IB. Now you see, when you take a packet from IA, what is the IP address? Because it is of inside a computer. This is the port. It is inside the computer. The IP address will be IP here. Now again, B again lies inside a computer and it is another port. The IP address of this computer will be again IP. There is no difference here. So it is IG here. So it is IG here. So again, this will not be able to differentiate that if this request is coming from the same computer with the different ports, or this request is coming from two different computers. Okay, so that is the main problem. So what is the solution here? So solution is, we use combination of both. Combination of both means I will use IP address plus port number. IP address plus port number, and now your IP will be 32, your port address is 16 bits. Now you get a new address that is 48 bits, and this particular address is referred to as a socket address. Okay, so combination of both I will use. Now what is the, how I'll show. Now suppose you are in a PC. Okay, there are again two processes that are running inside the PC. Suppose this is again A, this is B, and when you tries to communicate with the server of Google, now what you do, you take what you do, you take this packet and this packet. Okay, so now the port number here will be X. Now the port number, it inside a computer, the same port number cannot be taken by two processes. If it is X, now inside the computer no process can take an X, because X is already taken. So that is why the B is running on a different port number, that is Y. So this is a PC P. Okay, so now what is the IP address here? IP address will be a IP. Here the IP address will be IP, that is already known. IP address of destination will be IG, IP address of destination will be IG. Now what is the source port here? Source port here is X, destination port is 80 here, and the source port here is Y, and the destination address is 80 here. Okay, so if you're seeing here, now you are able to differentiate it that they are coming from the same machine. So Google server can easily interpret they are coming from the same machine, but in the same machine they are running on different ports. Okay, so this particular server can respond to individual port. That can happen. Okay, so if I take the similar scenario and I'll say that this one is my PC. This is your 80. Okay, so now if you see, if the request come like this, suppose this is X here, again you have taken a port number X because same port number can exist, but this is a machine P here and this is the machine Q here. Okay, so now when the packet came from here, it will be IP address is IP and IP address is IG here. What is the port number? Port number will be X and it will be 80. In the similar way, if you check it, the IP address here will be IQ and the IP address will be destination will be IG, and the IP source IP is X here and the destination IP will be 80. So if you're seeing here, this particular server can interpret, however they have the same port number but they belong to different PCs. Okay, so that is how your socket address works. Okay, socket address is a combination of IP plus your port number. Okay, so that is why it is fairly used in TCP/IP. Okay, now the next one is your what do you say, sequence number. So it is done now. Source port is done, destination port is done. Now we are here at sequence number, and sequence number here is 32 bits. Okay, so I'll tell you what do this sequence number do here. So first you understand this is the third part. Okay, now TCP actually is something called a byte stream protocol. Okay, byte stream means every byte in TCP is numbered. Okay, so TCP is a byte stream protocol. You have to count every byte. One thing you remember this part, you have to count every byte means you have to suppose this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this will be given a sequence number as 1. In the similar way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This will be given a sequence number of 2. Okay, so you will give a sequence number to a whole byte, not bit but byte. Okay, in the similar way, if you see here, IP is a packet stream protocol. Packet stream means it just divide the packet and number the packet according to that. Okay, so another one, whatever is in the packet, so packet can be 180 bits, 120 bits, then this. Okay, so another thing is your DLL, data link layer. It is actually a bit stream protocol. Okay, so bit stream, again it is not in your syllabus because bit streams come under HDLC, so we will not discuss that, but still understand. So in DLL we count every bit, in IP we count every packet, and in TCP we count every byte here. So first you understand this. Now what is the meaning of this is that suppose there is a, now I will use segment again instead of packet. I will use segment in transport layer. One thing is that. Okay, so now suppose this is your starting bit. Okay, so suppose 1, 2, 3, just writing any number here. So these are the numbers that exist there. Suppose now this will be your packet, and there is something called a sequence number here. And there are other things. I do not want to get them other things right now. I'm just concerned with the sequence number. Okay, so now suppose this is the starting sequence number. The starting sequence number uh, should be, I'm saying it is 150, and then it is till it started from 100 and it is going from 150. Okay, so I'm started from here. Every bit is giving a sequence number 1 2 3 4 5 100 100 200 300 4 up to 150. Okay, so this is your last sequence number, and what you put in this particular sequence number bit field is you put the first sequence number, whatever is the sequence number, you put it here. Okay, the sequence number bit field, the sequence number field will contain the starting of the first sequence number that you are sending in data. Okay, so this will be placed in sequence number. Okay, so there is also acknowledgement number. Just let me see if there is. So okay, so I'll tell you about it. Just wait a second. So now understand the sequence number. So what is the sequence number? You whatever you are sending, you may have uh, written any number there. So you place the starting initial sequence number in this field. Okay, so it is as simple as that. Okay, so now understand this. Uh, Now understand this point. When you send this sequence number field, this is the starting sequence number. So what happens is that suppose you are a sender and this is a receiver. Okay, so suppose you send this particular packet P1. Okay, so when you send this particular packet P1, so the receiver has to reply with the acknowledgement. What is acknowledgement? Whatever the receiver is expecting less next. Okay, so now what happens in TCP, the receiver will reply with the acknowledgement number of 151 because it got 100 to 150 150 total data here. So it is expecting the next sequence number to be 151. It is as simple as that. So acknowledgement number, it is sending that I want the next sequence number. What is the next sequence number? Now it is very interesting to understand that how this particular receiver is able to figure out the final sequence number, meaning how it is able to figure out that the total length is from 100 to 150 and I have to receive acknowledgement of 151. Okay, because if you see here, there is no total length field. Okay, so if you see here anywhere, there is no total length field exist. But if you see in IP protocol, there was something called a total length field. So the total length of the packet was already defined in IP protocol, but it is not defined in TCP. So how are you able to figure out the end of the packet? So how are you able to send the acknowledgement to be 151? Okay, so there is no acknowledgement number on the header that you receive, but you have to put 151 on the header, and we do not know the sequence number of the last bit. Okay, if we know, we can just +1 and you can get the acknowledgement and you put it on the header and you can send back. Okay, but if we have a total length field, we can easily figure out, but there is no total length field exist in TCP. So how we are able to figure out? So understand this point. Now you are here. Now you are saying I am from 1 to 150, but you this particular header length, suppose I do not know this header length. You can say there is the sequence number. The sequence number is given to as 100. Okay, so that is the information that is available to you. Now this is, suppose this is the header here. Okay, so there may be other fields, but just suppose this is the header here. So header length is given to me. That is absolutely clear to me. I think header length is there. Yeah, header length is there. There is no problem, but this length is not there. And I do not know that total length. I do not know the total length. If you see here in the header, there is no total length field. Okay, so how do I get that? What actually, how can I calculate this, that the last bit is from 100 to 150? How can I able to calculate it out if I do not have the total length field? If I have a total length field, what can I do? I can take the total length field and I can minus the header length. I will get this particular whatever is there. So I will get the data here and I can easily calculate if the first is 100, and I can easily calculate the last will be 150, and I have to send the acknowledgement of 151. So that is easily understandable, but total length field does not exist there. So what to do? Okay, so now understand this point. Now we see that from transport layer, it will be given to network layer. Yeah, we know that. In network layer, there is a IP header. In the IP header, there is something called a total length field. Okay, so we now we employ IP header here. So first of all, you take this packet. Now this is what I called a transport layer segment. Okay, so in this segment, there will be this one will be your header length, and I don't think you have the information for this. Okay, so I'm calling this as uh, y. Okay, so calling this as y is unknown. Okay, so header length is known, there is no problem with that. So what I do, when this particular transport layer segment is given network layer, now network layer what it will do, it will take this packet and embed, take this packet, sorry, take this packet and it will put its own header. Okay, so IP will put its own header. So we already know that. So this will be the header length here. Now this particular IP protocol, this is IP. Now this is a transport layer segment. Now this is a IP datagram. So this whole total is IP datagram. Okay, so now IP has header length field as well as the total length field. So now take advantage of it. Okay, so now I'm writing it as this is header length, and suppose this is x. So I do not know x now. I do not know x and I do not know y. Okay, so these are not known at that moment. Okay, so how to get the value of x? You take the total length field and you minus header length for it. You will get the value of x. Okay, so when you get the value of x, now this will x serve as a total length field for this transport layer segment. Now you getting my point? Now this x will serve as a total length field. Now what you do, you take your x and you minus header length from it. Header length, this is header length 1, this is header length 2. So header length 2, when you minus header length you will get the value of y. Okay, so that is how you calculate it, and you just, that is why I've said everything is systematic here. Everything is systematic. You are seeing here, there is no need to add a total length field because the total length field already exists in the IP. Okay, that is one point to understand. Okay, so now sequence number field will contain the first sequence number. From it, I'm able to get the sequence number field will contain the first sequence number. Acknowledgement number field will indicate the next bit expected by the receiver. So there are two takeaways from this. Sequence number field will contain first sequence number of the data, and acknowledgement field will indicate the next bit expected by the receiver. Okay, so that is as simple as it gets. Now where are problems? Now I also, it's my habit that I always tell the problems. Okay, so that when I tell you the solution, it will be very easy for you to understand. Okay, so I'll explain you some problems here. Okay, so now the problems with the sequence number. Now what is the problem there? So suppose this is a sender here and this is a receiver. Okay, so I'll discuss this particular thing in the next one because it's a little bit long here. Okay, so it will take around 10-12 minutes, so I don't want to do that. So I will discuss with you in the next lecture. So I'll share the quiz with you. Okay. Okay, so first of all,